So I am thrilled to have Oscar here with me today. Truth be told, he is definitely more of an expert when it comes to Zapier than I am. Just so you know, this webinar is being recorded and we will get that out to you within 24 to 48 hours. So you have this link to refer back to if you want to share it with any of your coworkers, some of your team, and really think about how you want to use Zapier to maximize operations at your youth activity center. Please continue to use the chat to engage with us. As a presenter, it just keeps us pumped up. We know that we're talking about stuff that interests you. We're happy to ask questions. If you have a specific question for Oscar, if you will throw that in the Q&A, that way when we get to the end and we have time for questions, we can pop through those. But if you just want to engage back and forth, I love a little banter, you can throw that in the chat. And Mason and myself will be able to answer some of the Jackrabbit side questions for you in the chat. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Oscar Di Pasquale. He is a business automation expert, and he is the man when it comes to helping teams save time and focus on high-level activities. He has a passion for businesses and flourished in 2018 when he was selected for an exclusive program connecting young talents with Silicon Valley's tech giants. That year, he started to offer several digital marketing services to international companies such as Gartner-recognized SaaS company and an e-learning startup backed by a prominent Italian impact investment fund. Since 2020, he has specialized in streamlining business processes and has helped several teams save up to 30% of their time and drive substantial revenue gains. I don't know about any of you, but if I could get 30% of my time back and more money, sign me up. But even better news, Oscar has been able to help some of our very own clients here at Jackrabbit already. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him get started. So I will.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the amazing introduction, Amber. Some of my clients always tell me that I have to smile more, so I will try to smile as much as possible and make this presentation not too boring or technical for you. So I'm going to share the screen now and start the presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good to go.
Perfect. So thank you very much for being here. As Amber said, I am a business automation consultant and I help managers and entrepreneurs automate their processes so they can save time, reduce the overwhelm of the team, and increase conversion and retention rates. This webinar is going to be about how to increase productivity and profitability in your business. This is the agenda for today's webinar. I'm going to start with a context and an overview of business automation. Why? Because I didn't want to jump into the tutorial right away, because I want you to understand the fundamentals first. So I am a bit of a nerd and I like to play around with tools, but the first step is always understanding the context. And moreover, automation is not a silver bullet or a magic wand. So you really need to understand the context. Then I will show you what kind of processes you can automate specifically in your type of business. And then I have a practical exercise that you can do to understand what would be the impact in your business. And then I'm going to show you a tutorial that includes two scenarios. And these are related to specifically the onboarding process. This is, of course, the integration that Jackrabbit developed this year with Zapier. Then I have the 5 steps process that I always recommend people to follow when they want to start automating their business processes. Then I have some case studies and resources that you can watch after I send you the presentation and the recording of this webinar. And then I will explain to you how I can help your type of business, and we are going to have a Q&A session at the end. Now, let's start with the context. Especially service-based businesses, in order to gain a competitive advantage and stand out from the competitors, they have to have a great experience for two groups of people. The first one is the staff. Why? Because you want your team to always be focused on high-level tasks and not waste time on low-level tasks. So this is the first group. The second group is customers. Of course, if you wanted to have a higher retention and conversion rates, you need to have to provide an exceptional customer experience to your customers. Customer experience is a very, let's say, it's a keyword that many entrepreneurs and managers already know, but with business automation, they started to introduce also the fact that the staff has to do a great experience, not only the customers. So you might be familiar already with the second group of people that I just mentioned, and not with the first one, but now you know it. So there is a problem. How can you do so when you have the following issues? After having worked with many teams and many service-based businesses, I grouped the issues that teams always have into three main buckets, into three main categories. The first one is related to the time waste on repetitive tasks. So usually teams have dozens of spreadsheets and documents, and it's always so hard to find the most updated data regarding your customers or a specific prospect. Moreover, you have several tools to check. I've seen teams using forms on the website that are not connected to the CRM. They have an email marketing system that is not connected to the main hub. So they always have to switch from one tool to another one to find the correct data. Not only it takes time to find the data, but also updating the data. So that is the first thing that I put there. The second bucket is related to your team's effort, which is a consequence of the first group of issues that I just mentioned. So basically, you don't have a place to check to see and understand where each lead is in the nurturing process, for example, or where each new student is in the onboarding process. So this way, it takes a lot of time to follow up with the leads and to follow up with your customers' requests. The third bucket is related to the fact that you are leaving potential enrollments on the table. And this is connected to the fact that you don't have a way to capture valuable email addresses on your website. You don't have an organized follow-up system that allows you to have an efficient follow-up. And in general, your CRM is a disorganized pile of contacts and lists. This is very common. Not every team is using efficiently the CRM, and most of the cases it's just a bunch of contacts with a bunch of info, and you are not really leveraging this powerful tool. Now, the result is that you have wasted resources, you waste time on low-level tasks, you have more stress for your team, and there is a constant feeling of anxiety. The other group of things is that you have lost revenues, meaning you have lost leads, enrollments, referrals, and you have a lower retention. I always like to use this picture, the picture of a leaky bucket, because it really makes the idea, meaning it doesn't make sense to put more volume at the beginning or at the beginning of the process, because it's a leaky bucket. So you're going to have some wastings. That's why the first thing that you need to do is to fix it. How can you do that? Now, to summarize the benefits of automations, I can mention, of course, that you spend less time on repetitive tasks, so you are more focused on high-level tasks, on strategizing, on following up with leads and customers' requests. You don't have the spreadsheet chaos, which I also like to call it spreadsheet nightmare. And the second two are connected to the first two. They are a consequence. You have a higher conversion and retention rates because you are able to focus on your customers and leads. Now, you need some elements, some components to do and accomplish what I just mentioned. The first one is having a single source of truth. In this example, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a campaign specifically, but it can be applied to other systems such as HubSpot. You need this to store the info related to your leads and students. When you are going to receive this presentation, you'll be able to click on the link that I put there to get access to a checklist that I created and that I use to audit the CRM systems. And also you'll find some tips to avoid common mistakes that oftentimes teams make and that make the CRM completely useless. So we don't want that. We wanted to make the most out of our tech stack. The second component is tools that do specific bits of your processes. Now, it is impossible to find one tool that does everything. So for this reason, sometimes you need to enhance the capabilities of your current tech stack by integrating other tools. An example can be a tool for sending SMS text messages or mailing postcards to your new customers, chatbots on your website, and so on. And thirdly, you need a glue for connecting your entire tech stack. Now, sometimes there are direct integrations, so the two apps would be able to communicate with each other without a third-party tool, but sometimes there is not a direct integration, so you need something like Zapier to put in communication these tools. Now, as you can see in the picture here, you have many different, let's say, components because you have the website, you run ads, spreadsheets, in-person events, chatbots, and so on. We need to connect all those together and push data into one single source of truth, which is the CRM. Now, I wanted to create a list to show you what you can automate in your type of business. Of course, this is just like a brief list, like with the most important things that you can do. So you have your main processes such as sales and marketing, new enrollments, paid trials, and then you have withdrawals, the onboarding of new team members, and the reporting. And for each one of those processes, I listed some of the tasks that you can automate, which is mainly updating CRM after you have a new lead or a new paid trial or a new customer, sending confirmations, sending onboarding sequences, communicating with your team, and so on. Now, this is an exercise, a practical exercise that I recommend to my clients when they ask me, because this really helps you to have an idea of what kind of impact automation can have in your business. I listed your main important processes, and then, as you can see on the right, you have some instructions. So think about how long it takes for you to onboard a new student, or to manage a new lead, or to manage a new paid trial if you have one. Now, multiply the result by the amount that you have to manage in 1 year. And then you need to multiply the result by the business cost that you have. Now you have a sort of benchmark, you have a starting point that you can use to compare the new process to. So at least you have an idea of the starting point. I'm a really, let's say, practical guy, meaning I always like to think in numbers and analyzing things, so that defining the current situation, the starting point, is always the first thing to do. So then we can analyze what it's possible to be done. And this is the first part, the time and cost savings. Then we have the other side of the things, which is more revenues. So think about it. How much would it be worth to you if you had one additional lead capture because you have a more efficient lead capturing system, or one additional lead that you convert because you have a more efficient follow-up systems, and one additional student who re-enrolls because you have a great customer experience. So think about it. How much would it be worth for your business? And what if it were 2, 3, 4, and 5? So this really gives you an idea of the potential impact that automation and that automating your business processes can have in your business. Now, before I start with the tutorial, I would like to start with a short intro about Zapier, because I'm aware that not all of you are familiar with this tool. So some of you might be familiar with the automation feature that many tools have, like ActiveCampaign has one. You can create automations. Zapier is similar, something similar, but I like to call it automation on steroids, meaning that you can do much more. You can connect hundreds of apps. Zapier has a list of hundreds of apps that you can connect. And you can also manipulate the data during this process. So the logic is similar, meaning you have a trigger and then you have some steps, but is so much more powerful. Usually I use the internal feature, the internal automation feature, when it's something that lives in the app, like in ActiveCampaign, or you need some automation happening inside ActiveCampaign. When I need to build more complex workflows, most of the times I use Zapier. Also because you can include in one workflow, in one automation, many apps. Now, in the first screenshot that I put, you can see the Jackrabbit trigger, and then I created a step, an ActiveCampaign step for creating and updating a contact in ActiveCampaign. And in the second screenshot, as you can see, you can map the fields, meaning you can tell Zapier, hey, I want the family contacts email field in Jackrabbit to be pushed into the email address field in ActiveCampaign. So this is very powerful because you are basically telling Zapier how you want the data to be sent to ActiveCampaign. And you can also manipulate the data. I will show it to you in a moment. So this is why it is very important to have a scalable and efficient CRM structure. This is something that I cover in my checklist. Because you don't want to just throw a bunch of data to Zapier or your CRM system. You want to have everything organized in the two platforms and then use Zapier to connect them. These are other things that you can do in Zapier, meaning I showed you the action of updating or creating a contact in ActiveCampaign, but you can do much more. For example, you can add and remove a tag. You can create an account, create a campaign, create a deal, and so on. This is just to show you that you have hundreds of apps and you have tens of actions that you can do for each one of those apps. Moreover, you have built-in tools, meaning, as you can see in the picture on the right, you have tables, filter, format, and delay steps. They are very useful because they allow you to, for example, change a date format during a process, or you can delay a step. You can filter out certain records, certain data. So Zapier is a very powerful tool because it allows you to not only put in communication two apps, but also it allows you to manipulate the data. Now, one of the first things that you need to do at the beginning, it's not the very first thing that you need to do. I will explain to you later, but one of the first things that you need to do is to standardize and organize the fields and values. Why? Because as I already mentioned, you don't want to just throw a bunch of data to your CRM system. You need to, I mean, why? Because in Jackrabbit, you have family, you have contact, you have student, you have a class, and you have many fields for each one of those elements. In Active Campaign, you have a contact, you have a deal, and then you have an account. Meaning the logic, the data structure is not the same. So you can't just throw data to Active Campaign. You need to map out those fields, standardize the values, and understand how to send data to AtiCampaign. Also because most CRMs are based on email addresses, meaning in Jackrabbit, you can have one family and 3 children for that family. But in AtiCampaign, you can create, let's say, one contact page for each one of those children. So the way that I have organized this in AtiCampaign is that you have one contact page that corresponds to the family, and then you summarize the enrollments data in one contact page. This is just to summarize it, so then you can understand how to manage this integration. Now, this is a flowchart that I created to show you one scenario, one integration scenario. This is specifically, as I already mentioned, for the new enrollments process. Sometimes you need an intermediate step that allows you and your team to approve the data, to review, update, and then approve the data. So this is something that I implemented for a client of mine. You have new data coming from Jackrabbit, and then you have, thanks to Zapier, you can filter out the records that you don't need. I will show it this step in a moment. And then you have a table, an interface that your team can use to review and approve every single enrollment. Once it's approved, there is another step that proceeds with the data that has been approved, and then we have some scenarios. I think that I already mentioned in some previous slide that in AtiCampaign you have built-in tools. So you can also create paths. This is one of the built-in tools that you have. A path is basically a set of conditions that you can set up in your Zap. And you can route one enrollment to the right scenario. And then you can customize this scenario based on your needs. So, for example, this enrollment is connected to a family that is already in AtiCampaign as a customer. So, of course, the path should be different than a new family that has never been enrolled in your school. So this is the first scenario. The second scenario is a little bit different. There isn't an intermediate step to approve the data, but the connection is direct. So since you don't have a way to, let's say, approve data, with this scenario, I highly recommend to set up very well and in an efficient way the conditional logic, because you don't have a way to to approve or not approve data. That's why you wanted to make sure that the data that is sent to your CRM system is correct. Now, let me start with the tutorial. Now, this is the first scenario with the intermediate approval step. And this is the first Zap that I mentioned. You have the Jackrabbit trigger here. So here you can, here we have some sample records. Let's continue with one. Here I created a filter step. Why? because this tutorial and this process is specifically for new enrollments. So we wanted to exclude, for example, trials. So I'm using this step, this Zapier step, to filter out every record that does not meet these criteria, meaning enroll type is enrolled. So if this specific record that has been created in Jackrabbit meets this criteria, then the Zap proceeds. And the next step is creating a new record in the table. A table is a new feature that Zapier released this year. And with this feature, I was able to create the intermediate step that I told you. As you can see here, I created several columns in the table, and then I'm mapping the Jackrabbit fields. Now, let's do a test. This is the table. As you can see, it's empty. There is no record now. Retest step. 1 second, let me refresh it. Okay, here we have one record. Now, your team can now go through this enrollment. Let me expand it and update, make any change if needed. And we can even create other fields in the table that are not present in Jackrabbit if you needed to insert additional info. Here I created an example of a drop-down menu. Now, before I click on approve to show you what it does, I want to walk you through the second part of this app, which is the conditional logic that I showed you a moment ago. So here we have the trigger, that is triggers up button clicked in Zapier tables. We have an active campaign step that basically goes to active campaign and checks if the email address is already there. And then we have the conditional logic. I set up 3 paths for now. One is for when the email address is not in the CRM yet. And as you can see here, I created this condition, which is Zap search was found is false. That means that Zapier checks in active campaign if the contact is already there, and if not, then this path is triggered. So then the Zap moves forward with the data, with approved data. Here I created a step to create a contact, and as you can see, I mapped out all the fields that we have in the table, and we can even add this contact to an automation in active campaign if you wanted to save some tasks, because Zapier charges based on the task usage. So if you want to save some of them, you can create some internal automation. So you can basically add the contact to the automation. But then you can also create, you can also connect other apps. Wait. Okay. It's funny. I tried it like for the whole day, no problems. And now, yes, we do have a problem. Okay, no problem. So we can connect other apps. In this specific case, I created a step for sending an SMS using an app called ClickSend. Let me zoom in. Okay, send SMS in ClickSend. I want to show you. Yes, so here we can basically insert the phone number that is contained in the table, and we can also customize the text message with the values that we have in the table. So for example, if you have a specific I mean, let's say that this specific enrollment is related to a student who enrolled in one specific program. You can include the name of the program in the text message. So, or the name of the teacher, as you can see here. So it is a very powerful tool. Another thing that I always recommend to this type of businesses is that you mail welcome postcards to new students. And this app, ClickSend, allows you to do that. So not only you can send SMS text messages with this app, you can even mail postcards to your audience. So I think this was a great insight for you. So this is the first path. I just wanted to show you also this one for when the contact is already in a campaign as a student. Here the conditions are Zap search was found is true and type exactly matches student. Type is basically a field that I create in a campaign to classify and organize the contacts. So you're going to have leads, you're going to have student or customers, and then you're going to have admin team. So we can categorize your contacts. And then what I do here is that, as I previously mentioned, we wanted to organize the enrollment data in one contact page. So you want to have one email address, and then you want to have a field that stores the enrollments for that specific contact. Since in this path, we are going to route contacts that are already in active campaign as a student, I created a JavaScript code that automatically updates that field without you having to do it manually in your CRM. So this script basically combines the value that you already have in a campaign and combines it with the value of the specific enrollment that you have in the table. And then in the following step, basically we update the field. So now let me click on publish because I would like to show a live example. Okay. So this is published. Now let me refresh this. Okay, here we have our enrollment. Okay, test@gmail.com. This is a sandbox active campaign account that I have, and I want to show you that now we don't have that specific contact. Okay, we don't have it. Now, let's go through this and click on approve. Let me refresh this. So here we are in the first path, in the first scenario. The contact is not in active campaign. And as you can see here, we have the contact that has been added. And also the field programs has been updated with the value 1. Now, let's do another, because I want to show you the other scenario. So let me create another row in the table. Okay. So let me expand the record. Let's change it. Let's put value 2. So let's say that this specific enrollment is related to the same family, but it's a different enrollment for another program. Let me click approve. Now, if I refresh this, we have value 1 and value 2. Why am I doing this? Because here you can create segments, meaning when you have to email your audience for a newsletter or for communications, you wanted to create segments of people, for example, students that are enrolled for program A or program B or both. So using these filters, you can create the segments. Let's say programs contains value 1. Yes, okay, let's keep it. Let's keep this. Programs contains value 1. Search. So you can create a segment and then you email those segments. This is connected to the checklist that I included in the presentation, meaning sometimes people use list in the CRM systems for segmenting the audience. So they create one list for each one of the programs. And of course, after a while, the CRM starts to get very, very messy. So you want to use the segments. Okay, so this was the first scenario. I hope that I explained it clearly, but later you can ask me any questions about this. I just wanted to give you an overview of what is possible to do. The second scenario is basically similar to the first one, but you don't have an intermediate step. And here you see the Jackrabbit trigger, the filter, define contact step in a campaign, and the free pass. And in this specific case, I want to show you that you can create. Let me. Read the step. In this specific case, I want to show you that you can also create a deal in your pipelines. So let me test a step. It should appear here. Yes. So pipelines are similar to the Trello boards. You might be familiar with Trello. So when there is a new enrollment, you might want to have a pipeline set up with several phases, several stages, and then you want to create a deal card, which is similar to a Trello card. You want to create it in your pipeline so that your team can manage it through the different stages and different phases. And here I wanted to focus on the fact that I customized the title here. New enrollment birthday party. Why birthday party? Because I included the field, I think it's something like a category 1 or something like that. So this is to show you that you can customize everything based on the data that you have in Jackrabbit and Zapier. And in the table. And with Zapier, you can manipulate that data. Of course, this is just an example. Everything depends on how your processes are set up and how you have set up a Jackrabbit account and your CRM account. So this was just a general overview. I think I showed everything. Yeah. So let me go back here. Now, how to get started? I know that it might sound very complicated and overwhelming, and at the beginning it is overwhelming. And this is what I recommend to do. The first step is always doing an audit and an analysis of your processes and your current situation. Why? Because as you clearly can see from this presentation, it doesn't make any sense to jump into the implementation right away. Just open Zapier and throw a bunch of data at the campaign. It does not work. You need to, first of all, define your current situation, meaning listing your processes, and I recommend prioritizing them based on the impact that they have in your business. List all the steps that you have in each one of those processes, list the owners of those steps, and this is the first part. And then you need to define the desired situation based on the business goals that you have. And then you can also understand how to automate your processes. I usually create flowcharts like the ones that I showed you. So you can visually see what the new process would look like, and you can compare it to the starting point. And another thing that I recommend doing is to define how you would reallocate the resources after the implementation. Sometimes writing down things on a piece of paper makes you aware of many dynamics that you have in your business. So only by the fact that you are taking a look at your processes, you improve them. This is something, I don't remember who says something similar, but this is very, very true. And then last but not least, you needed to define a roadmap to get there. And I always recommend starting with smaller projects so that your team can digest step by step the implementations. Yes, and of course, I recommend making sure that you have the right support, because there are always little details that you need to little parts that you need to tweak or changes that you need to make. So it is very important that when you embark on this journey, you make sure that you have the right support. And I put a lot of emphasis on this first step because many times teams make a big mistake and they basically end up adapting the strategy to the tools instead of setting up the tools to support the strategy. That's why you always need to start with a piece of paper and then mapping out your processes and understand what your goals are and how to achieve them through automation. Then you have the implementation and testing. I always recommend to test it before you go live, because there are always things that you haven't thought of, So you wanted to really make sure that you cover the most important scenarios. And then if you find something like along the way that you need to tweak, you can always do it. But always make sure that when you go live, that the system is set up correctly. And then train your team. Sounds obvious, but you can't just implement something and then tell your team, hey, just do X, Y, Z. So I usually train the team live in a Zoom call like this one, and then we record it so that the team always has a sort of tutorials that they can always refer to if they need. And this is also very important, build a knowledge base, because when you have new team members or you don't remember how to do certain things, then you need to have a place, a knowledge base in which you can find all the tutorials, all the flow charts of the new processes and so on that you can use so that you can decrease the learning curve of new team members. And you can also always troubleshoot faster if there is any problem. And then, of course, ongoing support, because once in a while, sometimes there are some bugs, some little things that you need to fix. These are 2 case studies that you can watch and that explain to you how I helped these 2 business owners, Firius and Katie, save 20-30% of the time on repetitive tasks. So they are large music schools in Pennsylvania and South Carolina. So I highly recommend that you watch those 2 interviews, because they shared a lot of value about how the processes are right now. So I think that if you're a business owner looking for save some time and make your processes more efficient, I'm sure that you will find value in those 2 videos. And here I also put some external resources. Those are my YouTube videos that you can watch to learn more about the automation world. So for sure you'll find some interesting videos, not only about automation, meaning I created some videos about the general topic of automation and why it helps you and how, but I also created tutorials, meaning projects that I have done for clients, and I'm sure that you can get a lot of insights from them. Now, before we start and jump into the Q&A session, I wanted to briefly explain to you how I can help you. I have a coaching program, and usually in this coaching program, I guide the manager or the entrepreneur in the learning journey, meaning we understand what is possible to do in that specific case, and so that the business owner decreases the learning curve, meaning they don't have to spend hours looking for info online. They have very valuable tips and insights right away, specifically for their context. Then I have the implementation service, of course. I always start with analyzing and designing. And then I start with implementation, and I support the entrepreneur or the manager during the whole process. And thirdly is, of course, the ongoing support service. Sometimes I get asked if a company or a team can just outsource some daily tasks, but I prefer to only offer this support service for clients that have been implemented the processes with me, because sometimes teams have a really messy accounts and it takes like weeks just to clean that up. So I offer these only to clients that have implemented the whole system with me. In case you want to request a diagnosis call and receive laser-focused insights, you can scan this QR code, and then you can submit the application form, or you can just wait that I send you this presentation and click on that button. So thank you very much for this. I think we are, yes, on time.
It's like I just reappeared. We've had a couple questions come in, and I'm sure as you continue to answer those, it'll trigger some more questions from the audience. But some of these were really good. I answered some Jackrabbit ones behind the scenes so that I didn't put you on the spot. But we'll just start with Angela. So she's asking, how can you use Zapier to send a welcome email when they register? You pretty much answered that live, but I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, since that was one of the scenarios
Yes.
you mentioned.
So you can do it also in Zapier, of course, meaning you have a new student, a new enrollment, and then you can set up, so you have the trigger in the Zap, in the automation, and then you can create an internal step in Zapier to send that email. But what I recommend is to have one single source of truth, meaning you need to do it in ActiveCampaign or HubSpot or your CRM system, so that every time that you click on a contact page, you have the chronology of everything that that contact has done with you. So that is really important. It doesn't make any sense to send an email in one tool and then do another thing in another tool. So everything, all the info are scattered around. So it doesn't make sense. I always recommend to use the conditional logic that I mentioned, so that you make sure that that everything is updated in your CRM, and then you send emails or trigger onboarding sequences or welcome email sequences in ActiveCampaign.
Very good. All right, Olivia wants to know, we are running into issues with siblings in ActiveCampaign. Do you have a workaround for multiple siblings with one parent email address?
Okay, so yes. So what you mean is that you would like to send different emails to those, like what is exactly this issue?
Yeah, Olivia, if you're still here, if you can expand on that either in the chat or in the Q&A. What exactly is the issue? Is it not
Yeah,
allowing you to send because
because
you need a different email address to?
because because if it's a confirmation email, I actually set up an automation in Zapier that, as I showed you, you can customize those confirmation emails with the data that are related to a specific enrollment. So there wouldn't be an issue using a specific data that is connected to a specific enrollment. But if you wanted to just trigger an onboarding sequence for, I don't know, Kinder Music, and those two siblings are enrolled in Kinder Music, then you can just trigger the same email sequence, even if they are two different persons, but still it's the same family. I hope that I explained it clearly.
If not, I'm sure she'll let us know if she has any follow-up questions.
And also another thing is that as I showed you, you can customize the deal cards. I don't know why, but many times people don't know that you have deals and pipelines in ActiveCampaign or HubSpot. That means that the contact is like the summary of the enrollments for the specific family, but then you can have, for one contact, you can have multiple deal cards. You can have multiple cards in your pipelines for each one of those children, and each one of those cards would have different data. So the contact is the family, but then if they are onboarding 3 different children, you would have 3 different deal cards with 3 different data that are related to the enrollment.
All right, very good. All right, next question is from Ken, and you and I may have to tag team answering this one. So he wants to confirm this Zoom call is about how to pull information from Jackrabbit to then do things with Zapier versus Zapier to put information into Jackrabbit, such as new trial families, leads, etc. Can Zapier be used to create a quick registration? I don't know how familiar you are with the system, but I can assist here if you need me to.
Yeah, maybe you can start with it. I know, I mean, I checked that, but yes, you can go ahead and answer first.
So, Ken, usually with quick registration, you're just putting in a little bit of information, and you can certainly zap that from either a Google Sheet, Trello, ActiveCampaign, a platform into Jackrabbit, just like you can out of it. You can search to make sure the family isn't already in there, but then you can ask it to create the family, the contact, and the student. So yeah. All right. This one is probably more for me. So we've got someone asking, will Jackrabbit be adding support for more events actions within Zapier? For example, the ability to trigger a zap when a new teacher is added. Very good news. We have a few new zaps that are in the pipeline and have been identified. So I think we will be able to address that when that gets released. So stay tuned. All right, now we're getting back to the ones for you, Oscar.
Okay.
Does data have to go from Jackrabbit first into a Zapier table or spreadsheet before going to another platform, or can it get zapped directly into another sheet, such as Google Sheets?
Yes, I mean, if you are using just spreadsheet, yeah, it's okay. The purpose of my tutorial is to show you one of the multiple ways that you can use the integration. So it depends how you have set up your processes. So that's the starting point. So creating your flowcharts about your processes and then understand, okay, I need this set of tools. How do I connect them together? So the answer is yes, you can do pretty much everything with Zapier. You can send info from Jackrabbit to anything, everywhere. The point is does it make sense in a strategical way? Meaning, if you I don't know how big your business is, but I would keep the info in your CRM system. And then when it comes to tracking, then I do have a spreadsheet that is created specifically for that. But it's not for, let's say, storing data about leads and customers. It's more summarize all the new students that you got or new leads that you got. So yes, I do have a spreadsheet specifically for tracking purposes, but then the team is mainly using ActiveCampaign for sales and marketing activities.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple more we can jump through really quick. Rhonda wants to know the texting app that you recommend using with Zapier.
Yeah, click send.
Click send. Perfect. Um, Shayla says our biggest time user is billing. Would love a brief explanation on how this program would help. My gut says I don't know if this will address billing, but Jackrabbit has some automated features related to billing, so it might be a great opportunity to connect with our support team when it comes to payments. This is more of automating communication and things like that.
Yeah, the positive thing is that, of course, um, I mean, Zapier is always evolving, and also Jackrabbit. So something that is not possible to do right now, it might be in, I don't know, a month or so. So yeah.
And then last one, if our business just uses Jackrabbit, is Zapier still a benefit to us? And that is perfectly correlated to what Oscar just said. If that's all you're using right now, that is perfectly fine. When you're ready to implement some automation and expand your tool set, both sides are always evolving and enhancing. So maybe it's not right now, but it's something to keep in mind for the future.
Yes, I mean, I don't like to, I mean, it doesn't make sense to overcomplicate things. It depends, because if you have a 1,000 students school is different than 50 students school. So it always depends on your specific scenario.
Yep, absolutely. And between the chat and the last question, go high level, Studio Hub, get more students, all of these programs that we hear about for lead management that really are popular among youth activity centers wanting to know if Zapier works with those. If it is a system that has Zapier connected to them, they should be able to talk to each other. So it is reliant on the other side also having Zapier. Side note on that, we are also evaluating things from a CRM and lead management standpoint and researching what the opportunities are there, because we hear the market and we know that that is a big need. But I want to thank Oscar for taking the time today. If you're new to Jackrabbit and you have questions for us on how Zapier can work with your future Jackrabbit account, you can reach out to us at info@jackrabbittech.com. If you're a Jackrabbit client and you like what you saw and you need some help with some of your Zaps, you can reach out to our support team using the question mark when you're logged in. Obviously, reach out to Oscar. He is an expert on creating what seems complicated to us, but I'm sure he can do it in his sleep, and get more of your business automated. So you can save time and money and either put that into your business or maybe put that into a little vacay. So we will we will send this recording out within the next day or two. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye.